I say this is a wonderful occasion because we are now witnessing another significant development. I'm sure it needs no introduction. I'm sure we all know him, Mr. Sayed-Khaiyum. Mr. Tapu, I'm sure you all know him here in Sigatoka. He's a business pioneer here in this.
Ladies and gentlemen, the other very important occasion that we are marking today is the return of Fijians, as the MC, Nemane Dalmai Batiki, has said, who, as you know, comes from Rewa, has acknowledged the fact that there are a lot of Fijians who are coming back to Fiji to invest in Fiji. And they are doing so primarily because of the fact that we have now allowed for multiple citizenships, so people can hold more than one citizenship, which, as you know, until a few years ago was disallowed. It also does show to the rest of the world, and indeed to us who are living here, that those Fijians who have left Fiji, a few years ago, still have a very strong attachment and very strong affinity with their homeland. And I think this is very, very critical to acknowledge. And the fact, thirdly, is that they feel that level of confidence to be able to come into Fiji and invest in Fiji in substantial investments. As you know, prior to the elections in 2014, the Bainimarama government put in place a number of initiatives to not just attract people, but also provide that level of stability in policies, in the manner in which citizenship is treated, in the number of processes that have been fast-tracked, the ease of doing business, and of course, putting in place policies that have led to economic growth and indeed job creation. And that is very critical. Now, of course, after the elections, we have seen an even much bigger focus in the growth of the economy. We now have a number of multilateral agencies, including World Bank, Asian Development Bank, IMF, and other development partners of Fiji, including Australia and New Zealand, and those from outside the region, who are now very much interested in coming into Fiji, investing in Fiji, helping Fiji, not just to ensure sustained parliamentary democracy, but also to lead to the trajectory as far as economic growth rates are concerned. As you would have read in the papers, our Honourable Prime Minister is currently in Japan. From Japan, he goes to Thailand this weekend, where he's going to become the chairman of ESCAP, UNESCO. And in that visit also, he's going to have a number of discussions with members from the Thai government, where they're also interested in working together with Fiji. The government's approach is, the Fiji First government's approach is that we can learn a lot from other countries. And the reason why we need to have an open mind is that that ultimately creates jobs. It ultimately creates economic growth. So there, for example, many value adding that takes place in food processing in Thailand that we in Fiji do not do. You know, things like, I'll give you a very basic example, what we call jackfruit or katar. Now, we've been growing that in Fiji for years, but nobody's ever canned it. Soursop, or salifa as you call it. You go to places like Singapore, they make juice in shops and give it to you. But we don't have that. I think the only place in Fiji that actually sells sugarcane juice is at the airport. But you've got sugarcane all over the Western Division. Why don't we have sugarcane juice being sold by people on the roadside or in the shops? These are the kind of things that the government is very much focused on. So, for example, government has this year set aside $10 million to help Itauke landowners to start their own developments, because we have to empower the landowners, and the government's focus is on that. We've seen the traditional ceremony that has been laid out for us this afternoon. by the traditional landowners of this area. They need to be empowered, and indeed they have been empowered, and we indeed need to empower them even more. We have set aside, for example, $1 million to help those people who want to, for example, you see people by the roadside selling pieces of pineapple or watermelon. These grants are for them to have better facilities. So we're starting both at the grassroots level, and also now, as far as large corporations, large companies are concerned, tax rates have been brought down. We're providing incentives for people to bring in duty-free goods and machinery to start manufacturing, not just because we want to create jobs, but Fiji becomes an economic powerhouse in the South Pacific. And indeed we are. Companies like Tapus are now exporting to the rest of the Pacific, and we need to grow that. So I would like to thank Rajen and his family for being part of that drive, for being part of the trajectory that is really putting Fiji on the map. A small town like Sigatoka now, with their development now, I just saw a building next door. It wasn't here the last time when I was in Sigatoka. We've got a 3-story building next door. Now that's being built. Obviously, when people see others constructing, there is that new sense of confidence that develops. And so the government is here to facilitate that. I remember this small town, this road that you see around the corner, just past St. Joan of Arc. I attended St. Joan of Arc for about 3 months, I think, one term. And we used to walk from St. John to where my grandparents' house was, just opposite the mosque, Mata Mata. People from Yavula would know that. And there was no road there. We used to walk through on the railway tracks. They used to have cherry guava jungle there. All the old people are nodding their heads. And that's where we used to walk and go back to the house. So this town is obviously significantly changed. Our country, ladies and gentlemen, in the last elections, out of the 592,000 voters, 200,000 voters were below the age of 32. We have a young country. The bulk of the population in a few years' time will be even younger. So as a government, we need to think about the future. We need to plan for the future. Before I finish, and I'd like to say a few words regarding the investment by Rajen and his family. In the next few weeks' time, we'll have a team of people going around Fiji from the Ministry of Finance to every town and every major urban center and rural center, where they'll be taking your views, because we are going to put in place a development plan. Prior to the first coup in 1987, we used to have a 5-year development plan every 5 years. So the people knew where we were going. Everybody knew, everybody participated in that. We will now be putting in place a 5-year plan and also a 20-year plan going out into the future. Because as you all know, even in your homes, and we need to do that in our country, you cannot run any organization, any home without proper planning. And that's what we intend to do. So I urge all of you, wherever you see this group going around, if they're close to you, please go ahead and make your submissions. Tell them what you want. Tell them how you want Fiji to be, where you want Fiji to be in 5 years' time, in 20 years' time. What type of economic potential you think there is in your area, so you can contribute, and we as a country can develop a plan that will be for everybody. A plan that will be for the economic growth rate, to create jobs for our young people, and also to be able to look after our elderly as far as hospital and medical services are concerned. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to specifically acknowledge Rajen for his confidence. I met him, I think a few years ago in passing, in Sigatoka, or in Melbourne as well too, where we were at a function where there was a group of Fijians who are now called Friends of Fiji. And they are in fact carrying out a number of charitable works. In fact, one of the gentlemen, Ganesh Sen, I don't know if he's here or not. He's here? Ganesh is here. He's an engineer by profession. He's now been coming to Fiji regularly. He's helped set up the Microsoft Learning Center at Natamboa High School. He's been involved in a couple of projects to build pedestrian bridges in a village in Namosi, and he's doing one up in Vanuatu. So these are the kind of things that is happening by former Fijians who have a strong affinity with Fiji. Rajen, of course, is one of them. I'd like to thank him to come, because he's come back to his roots. I know his father is from Sigatoka, who was a cane farmer. He's won various awards, etc. And he's now come back to his hometown to give back to his hometown. And of course, he's investing. He's making a little bit of money too, but he's also contributing to the community. So we need to encourage such people, and I think we should all put our hands together for him and his family, ladies and gentlemen, for having that confidence and always remaining a Fijian true at heart. So with those few words, ladies and gentlemen, I wish you all a very good afternoon. Vinaka. Thank you.